We all need to make smart decisions with our money. The Long-Term Investor Podcast shows you how by distilling complex financial matters into easily digestible lessons. And now, here's your host, Chief Investment Officer at PlanCorp and the author of Making Money Simple, Peter Lazaroff.
If you place your hand in a bowl of lukewarm water and start heating it, you're unlikely to notice the rising temperature because your hand adapts to the gradual change. Eventually, though, the water will get to a point where it's so hot it can burn, and you absolutely will notice, even if it might not immediately register. However, if you remove your hand from the bowl of hot water and dunk it into a bowl of ice water, you'll notice the temperature difference immediately, and it isn't going to feel good. Lifestyle creep can happen to us in our financial lives in much the same way. Most people get some kind of raise each year, and without a plan to save that raise, it's easy to use it up by adding a few luxuries to your regular spending. And it starts with little things like adding premium cable channels or buying the more expensive bottle of wine. And then it evolves into things like making more frequent phone upgrades, giving nicer gifts at birthdays, adding impulse items to your cart on Amazon, buying tickets for better seats at an event, or staying in nicer hotels, paying for slightly nicer airline seatings. Each of those things individually don't seem harmful, especially as you earn more and can truly afford a few luxuries. But little things have a way of adding up. And before you know it, you adapt without even noticing. Lifestyle creep happens when your spending rises with your income and you adjust to a more expensive way of living. Once you get used to one or any of these upgrades, eliminating them is a lot like dunking your warm hand into the ice water. It's very hard to do. Some inflation in your lifestyle isn't a bad thing, but you don't want the subtle upticks in your expenses to reach a point where it makes reaching your goals more difficult. There's some interesting research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York that I can link to in the show notes that shows that most of your inflation-adjusted wage growth, aka your pay raises, will occur in your early working years before leveling off in your mid-career and peaking around your 50s. Similarly, there's a study from the Labor Department that I can link to that shows your greatest inflation-adjusted income growth comes in your 20s, but continues to grow at a declining pace in your 30s and 40s. That tells us it's crucial to keep lifestyle creep under control when you receive those raises earlier in your career. And to keep lifestyle creep in check, you need a system that's going to make it easy to save your hard-earned dollars. Both creating a reverse budget that treats your goals like bills that must be paid and automating your finances can really go a long way to avoiding the type of lifestyle expansion that's detrimental to your financial goals. Reverse budgeting is something I've talked about before, and it's really just the process that simply figures out how much you need to save, making those savings automatic, and then you can spend the remaining amount of money as you please. And because reverse budgeting focuses on saving, you can't spend what you don't have. Increasing the amount you save naturally reduces the amount you spend, but it also forces you to prioritize your expenditures. And I think this is important because most people find that gradually saving more allows them to cut spending that doesn't really fit with their values. So the reverse budget helps you stay on track towards your financial goals, and it's really easy to set up. I have some worksheets on my website that I'll link to in the show notes, but if you download the goal planning worksheet, that's the ideal one for setting up a reverse budget. You start by writing down your short-term goals, which I define as those you're trying to achieve in 5 years or fewer. And then you list the desired date of completion along with the expected cost. Now, if you just add up the expected cost of all those goals and divide by 60, because there's 60 months in 5 years, then you can determine how much you need to save on a monthly basis to make this happen. There's more details on how to set up and maintain a reverse budget in that goal planning worksheet. But just at the high level, know that the reverse budget can help you stay on track for your goals and reduce the chances that lifestyle creep is going to take you off track. But as I said earlier, you also need a system that's going to make it all automatic. I have a really popular article that I can link to in the show notes also on this topic, but I do want to emphasize that the benefits of automation align with the human tendency to embrace habit. In fact, more than 40% of the actions people perform each day are driven by habit rather than actual decision. Not only are we creatures of habit, but we also tend to resist change. Change requires more mental effort, which our brains are hardwired to avoid. Routines become automatic, but change can jolt us into consciousness, sometimes in uncomfortable ways. So while automating your finances from bill pay to investing is easier than ever, few people find a way to automatically increase their savings over time. Of course, nowadays, there's all sorts of online investment platforms that's going to allow you to increase your recurring contributions on an annual basis. And the same goes for a lot of online banks. So you should take advantage of this to make that saving process a lot easier and actually more likely to happen. But if this feature is not available, maybe you can create some sort of recurring calendar event for January 1st of each year or whatever date works for you. And in that calendar event, give yourself specific instructions on how much you're going to commit to increasing your savings. Again, you can't spend money that isn't there. And if you can find a way to get an automated process to ensure your money, including your raises, is going to your savings before you're tempted to spend it, or before you even get used to having it in your account in the first place, that can go a long way to a successful outcome. Creating a system for financial success is all about making intentional, systematic choices with our money. And a good system is going to direct dollars to the things that matter to us most, but also keep us on track for reaching our end goals. And additionally, a systematic process can reduce and even eliminate the human tendencies that lead to poor consumption, savings, and investing decisions, including the decision, mindful or not, to give in to lifestyle creep. Another way to get a process in place that does these things is to hire an advisor. If you'd like to learn more about working with me, feel free to schedule a call by visiting thelongterminvestor.com. There's a button on the menu titled Work With Me, it's pretty obvious, that lets you schedule 15 minutes to find out if we're a good fit. As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, to long-term investing.
Thanks for listening to the Long-Term Investor Podcast. To access free financial resources and submit questions to be answered on the show, visit thelongterminvestor.com. Peter Lazaroff is an employee of PlanCorp and BrightPlan. All opinions expressed by Peter and any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of PlanCorp or BrightPlan. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of PlanCorp and BrightPlan may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.